see the crystal raindrops fall, and the beauty of it all is when the sun comes shining through. To hear those rainbows in my mind, when I think of you sometime, I want to spend some time with you. Just the two of us, we can make it if we try. Just the two of us.
Alright folks, welcome to the Besides the Norm podcast. My name is Scuba. Just before we get started, I have to give a shout out to Ori Carn for providing the background beat. He's got an instrumental mixtape out right now called Sample Point. You can get that on subfrictionrecords.bandcamp.com. I'll leave a link down below so you can check that out later. Today we've got two people in. We've got two guests from the Liberal... We've got two guests from the Liberal Democrats in Scotland. We have... you do this. Right. 2 seconds up at you. There you go.
Right, today we're joined by the Lib Dems. We've got Lauren Jones, who's the list candidate for Mid-Fife.
Mid-Scotland and Fife.
Mid-Scotland and Fife. And we've got Jane Ann Liston, who's also on the list, but is also a constituency candidate for... Mid-Fife.
And Glenrothes.
Yes. I knew that. I was just making sure you knew that. So, let's start off easily. How did you get into politics?
Well,
take it away.
I think it was just a question of wanting to get things done. One could, you looked around in where you lived and you think, it would be nice to do something about this, and it would be nice if someone did something about that, and then you realise, maybe I should be doing something about this, and that was it, really.
I got dragged kicking and screaming into politics by my husband. He was an avid Lib Dem, and I got sick of sitting on my own on the weekends while he was out delivering and doing political stuff, so I started going along and just got sucked in, and then I realised that you probably could make a difference being a politician and being an activist, and I ended up being one myself.
So
I love the description she used as well. She got sucked in, she was dragged kicking and screaming,
and instantly just happened to appreciate the exact same party as her husband.
Well, we wouldn't have got together if we weren't interested in the same things.
Yeah, but you could be a Green Party politician, which is a lot of the same kind of policies as the Lib Dems.
I know, but I feel like the Green Party have to wear a lot of like eco-friendly clothes, and I quite like shopping in Primark, and I feel like that's obviously just not going to work for me. So.
Do you feel like you'd have to start wearing hemp t-shirts? Just
to some grass skirts, that sort of stuff, like sandals all the time.
Some of that stuff
I
is
can't
beautiful
commit.
though.
I like
that. I like myself a wee grass skirt occasionally. Just a nice.
I was going to suggest a hemp t-shirt, but if you're with the grass skirts, then that's fine,
grass skirts are beautiful, Stephen. You need to open your mind. You need some grass skirts in your life. A wee barbecue, nice grass skirt. How could you know?
Well, that sounds dangerous. I mean, the grass could catch fire.
Yeah, well, it's green. So it would just smoke.
It would smoke really
Oh, that's bad. Then you inhale smoke.
You'd
you
basically
get ill.
become like
That's a good point, actually.
Ah.
Get rid of the grass skirts.
Right.
Rubbish.
Mow them. That's the only thing.
There you go.
So, your husband is a... I don't know his name, but he's
Bryn
the
Jones.
Cowdenbeath.
He's Cowdenbeath, and
Okay.
he's also on the list, and then I'm Kirkcaldy and on the list. So we got sort of shoved into standing this year at the last minute, but no, it's good. It'll be fun.
How do you go from being a member to then being an actual candidate?
I mean, for us, we were standing as councillors next year, or we're hoping to stand as councillors next year, and it just kind of got brought forward a little bit because there wasn't anyone in Kirkcaldy that was able to stand this year. And they were like, well, we know that you're interested in becoming a politician, Lauren, why don't you stand? And I was like, oh, okay.
Actually, what happens is that you fill in a form. They ask for people. They say, well, we're looking for people to stand in whatever election it is. This is the closing date. Contact us for a form, and then they send you something. You think this looks like the form I filled in last year or something. So you do an awful lot of copy and paste, but updating things slightly. And they will ask you some questions about. You might be asked why you will be asked, in fact, why do you think you're a credible candidate for this seat? And you give your reasons for that. You might be asked what your experience is and how have you managed to make a difference in your community, whether in politics or in some other activity. Because you don't have to be a politician to be doing things, but I think they like to see some evidence that you can actually campaign and do things. And then once you've got your application in, if there are more applicants than there are places, then there is a ballot carried out by the members of the area that you want to represent. And we're a very democratic party because it's one member, one vote for that. So all the members in the area have an equal say in whether you're in or not, and that's all there is to it.
See, because I've never been a member of a party. I've always just had opinions. I'm very opinionated. I say this on every podcast, but I went through a phase of being an extreme conspiracy theorist. And then I went through a phase of being sort of not a socialist, because I didn't know what a socialist was, but believing in sort of roughly the same things as socialism, and then gradually got into more what I call actual politics, where I'm talking about actual policies, where I'm discussing things that are actually happening inside politics. But that only happened slightly after the independence referendum. During the independence referendum, I was still just this on the fence kind of guy.
That was a huge turning point for a lot of this, though, was the independence referendum. A lot of you kind of younger people paying a lot more attention.
It's made such a difference in getting folk interested in politics. People that wouldn't even have voted before went out and got registered to vote, and I think it's
That's
really
a good
kept
thing.
interest high. It's been wonderful. I can't believe how much of a difference the referendum did make to involvement in politics, and that's a really good thing.
I mean, even we were speaking to a libertarian, Kaz Paul. I don't know if you know him.
No. There's a difference between libertarians and liberal Democrats, I believe. Apart from the first few letters.
Yeah, I was just saying that he's also standing. So I didn't know.
I see.
But he was saying that he's standing now, and he only really got interested in politics during the independence campaign as well, because before he was sort of like me, he was just sort of jumping from opinion to opinion. So
yes, well, quite often you get people who you knock on the door and they say, "Oh, I'm not interested in politics," but then but you wonder what they mean by that. They're possibly thinking of big macroeconomics or something like that. Well, I don't know anything about that either. But when you say, well, politics means things like your schools, or it means the NHS, it means your public transport, it means the whole exactly, the potholes in the road, and
everybody cares about that.
And sometimes dog mess on the pavement and things like that too. And suddenly people are making the connection that this is this is what politics involves, and that's the more local level. But and then perhaps you can get them interested.
Yeah, because we're heavily involved in the hip hop scene in Scotland, which has a lot of fuck the government and not really having any idea of what fuck the government means. So it's very, apologies for swearing.
Yes.
I think one of the things I always say to folk is if they've got a gripe about something that's going on in the country, or David Cameron did this, that's not fair. Who did you vote for in the last election? And if people say I didn't vote, I'm like, well, it serves you right.
Yes,
exactly. You can't complain in that situation.
I hate when people say they don't vote.
It really upsets me, because even if you end up spoiling your ballot, if you really disagree with that many candidates, spoil your ballot and show that you disagree, but don't just let it fly by and ignore it.
Even spoiling the ballot is just going to leave the person that got the most votes in power.
Absolutely.
Well,
it's much better using your vote for something that you believe in, but if there's genuinely no one that's standing that you can agree with, then at least show that you're dissatisfied. Don't just
stay in bed.
Yeah.
In Scotland, I think that's going to be difficult, because even in this constituency, there's two socialist parties. There's the Libertarian parties.
That, yes.
There's Conservative, there's Labour, there's Lib Dems, there's Greens. If you can't find someone that you agree with, at least on a few topics, there's something wrong. You've not read some manifestos or something. There's a problem with it.
Yeah. I mean, choose what you're most interested in. I mean, for me, like I'm dead interested in like mental health provision, and that's something that I think the Lib Dems do really well.
Yes.
Which is helpful because I am a Lib Dem. But like choose what's really important to you, and then find out what party goes with that and vote for them.
Yes.
Well, sorry.
I was going to say the question about people who say that they don't vote. What I tend to say to them is, well, remember that the rich and the powerful have always voted. Once upon a time, they were the only people that had the vote, and they did all they could to stop the franchise being widened and extended to ordinary people. They will continue to vote. So if you say, I'm not going to bother to vote, if ordinary people like you or me decide I'm not going to bother to vote, that's fine. But the rich and the powerful will continue to vote, and they're much more likely to get their people in. I have no idea whether that works with anyone, but that's normally what I say to them.
And there are people who tend to be the people that I really don't want in. Which is
there's an incentive for you. And of course, you mentioned all the different candidates. It's unfortunate that we've still got first past the post, but at least for the Scottish Parliament it's mitigated, although the constituency is fought under first past the post, which doesn't work for it more than two candidates.
You
have the top up with the regional list, so you get something that's a bit proportional. But we should have gone to STV, but this is where I could make some dreadful joke about a television station, but I won't. Even, as you know, there was the sort of halfway house that was proposed for the additional vote, and the whole of the United Kingdom voted something like 2-1 against it. Scotland was about the same as the rest of the country. In fact, the place that was closest was Northern Ireland, and even they were slightly, I think it was something like 51-49 against AV. So there was the opportunity to change it. That was a compromise. I honestly think that if we had gone to AV, then there would have been demand to go on and make it better, like single transferable vote. But because we decided to stick the first past the post, I can't see any voting reform coming in for a while. Yeah. And you get all these dreadfully distorted results like we saw last year. But there we are.
Was that dig at the SNP then?
No, I was actually thinking of the general election, and though it's funny. Yes, you did mention the Scottish National Party, because they did benefit disproportionately from the number of seats. But I was just thinking of how the Conservatives had got back in, and they didn't have. I can't remember what the percentage of the vote was that they actually got, but again, they disproportionately benefited too.
And a lot of them are in an expenses scandal now, aren't they? Their election expenses.
The Panama Papers and stuff as well. Have been...
Oh, I know, that's been a nightmare. But with their, you've got to declare how much you've spent when you're standing for an election, and 26 Conservative MPs have come forward and said, I think I might have made a mistake, because they were looking into, I think I might have made a mistake. I forgot to put a few things on, which is convenient, because they've only got an 18-seat majority, and there's 26 of them that have...
Oh God!
Admitted to it.
Remember we were checking councillors' expenses and that for when we were here,
they're all
and they were all
perfect endings.
they were all like really boringly average. They were all like really kind of nothing you could really kind of go mental about.
Well, I think
But isn't that a good thing? That means
I know
you've
that's
got honourable.
fantastic, but for us,
but
it was
it gives us nothing to moan about. we can't get you on and go, we've been stealing money from the taxpayers, because they haven't.
Exactly, they're actually decent people.
Yeah.
I mean, people used to comment when I was a councillor that my expenses were actually quite low, because I wasn't driving a car, I wasn't claiming mileage, I was claiming public transport fares, and you did get a mileage for the bicycle, but it was less than half, I think, what the car mileage was, and so my expenses were fairly modest.
A lot of the expenses through here are zero. Which
there's
is
loads
insane
of that,
to me.
It's changed, of course, because I'm not quite au fait with how it works. How it used to be was you were paid an allowance and you claimed your fares, your mileage, subsistence. If you were having to be away from home for several hours, then you could claim for meals up to a certain limit. But it could be that now that councillors are on a salary, some of that maybe different. I don't know. That would explain how they're zero, because otherwise it doesn't quite.
Doesn't seem like a big salary though.
Well, I don't. It's probably how much is it?
16,700 and something, I think. Something like that.
No, I don't think that counts as an excessive salary.
It is part-time work, though. It is meant to be just a part-time.
But in fact, that's not the way it works.
Obviously, it does take a lot more of your time up than that. But I mean,
when I
work full time and I earn less than that at the moment, so it's probably all right for not doing like a Monday to Friday 9 till 5.
I do get the idea, that we want our politicians for nothing. We want the best people, but we're not willing to pay them any money, because we know that they're all crooks. Never mind all the evidence to the contrary. And that was a compromise, the councillor's salary, because it was decided that it wasn't supposed to be a full-time occupation, as you said. The idea was to try and attract the brightest and best from other professions to become councillors. But coming up with the level of salary that they did, that is not likely to attract the brightest and best to become councillors. It is risky, because you're taking your 4 or 5 years out from your profession. You may not get re-elected, and that's a gap in your career which you might not be able to get back in at. And not to mention the fact you then get completely reviled and become public property. You just go out to the pub or the supermarket, or you're walking along the street and someone will say, "Excuse me, can I?" And normally one doesn't mind. Though I can tell you there were times where it was, "Oh, councillor," this was usually in the pub. I want to tell you about this. It's my friend who can't get a house, and there's this long story, and they didn't probably even live in my bit. And I can remember once getting really annoyed with someone who said, "Oh, she's got to listen to you." And I said, "No, I don't actually. I am out for the evening." So that is the sort of thing that can happen when you're into politics. They also used to say about me, I can remember quite a nice person stopping me and saying, "Can you see about this, councillor?" I said, "Okay, you're not actually in my ward. It's one of the other ones, but it's okay. I'll speak to you." "Oh," they said, "that's all right. We know that. Says, but we can catch you because you're on your bike or you're on 2 legs. The others are all driving about in cars, and we can't can't get them. I think, maybe I haven't thought this out very well.
What about the addition of Facebook and everything you've got nowadays? You must get this all the time, because we spoke to, I think most of the people that come on, that because they're on Facebook, there's automatically just people ready to jump on them at every fucking opportunity. It's always constant. Do you get a lot of that?
Confession here. Well, I am on Facebook, but I'm not being very political on it. I'm mainly using it for the St Andrews Rail Link campaign, in fact. Right. That's the only reason I'm on Facebook, but I do have a little page of my own stuff. But I have heard of all this and decided the best thing was keep the head down and keep the heed, I suppose, because so many people don't. And I imagine when you're posting stuff on a screen, people can't hear the tone of voice, despite the fact they put all these emojis up. And sometimes they take something as serious when it's supposed to be a joke. Yeah. And so it's probably not worth it. So I've avoided it that way, but...
I just, if someone does say something that I find upsetting on Twitter or Facebook to me, I'll write a response, but I don't post it, and I wait until the next day and read it again when I'm not upset or angry.
That's very wise.
I just and I don't want to be one of those people that are having a go at folk online.
I wish I
don't
had
want to be that person.
That rational thought process, whereas I'm just instantly
screw you.
Send.
Yeah.
And then you read it the next day and you're like, oh, shouldn't have said that.
People do seem very quick to fly off the handle nowadays. I'm noticing that. And you're just reading in the paper sometimes about someone who's been up in court for having done this, that, or the other. And the provocation seems to be so minor. And you think, just a minute, can you not control yourself a bit and just take a deep breath? Why don't you go and bash someone over the head just because he knocked your drink over or something like that? That is, I would not call that a proportionate response.
No.
I think because we're so used to having everything instantly, even if you order something online, it can be there the very next morning. It's so fast, everything's so fast, and you just expect everything to happen so quickly. And I think our tempers have kind of followed that.
In my young day, we had to wait for things, and even then, we didn't always get them.
I think the reason that I tend to not think about responses too much is because I tend to just respond specifically to scientific claims or to anti-immigrant claims, and they're the ones that annoy me.
Yes.
So I tend to always for instance, I think it was a couple of days ago, I saw a bunch of people posting up this thing about margarine, and it's been frying my nut for the past few days because no one's fact checked it. It's a margarine versus butter thing. And there's a picture of fruit flies on the butter, and they put all these claims up about saturated fat and trans fats and how margarine is one molecule away from plastic, and no one's fact checked anything or understood what one molecule can do, and so they're always like, oh, we need to use butter because I've got high cholesterol.
And it tastes better anyway. But I would say, sorry, you're talking about frying nuts, and I wouldn't be frying nuts in margarine. I wouldn't be frying anything in margarine. It's much better than butter.
99% of our DNA with bananas or something ridiculous
Probably.
like that. One
well.
molecule makes a massive difference.
It's so insane.
I'm 99% banana by that logic.
Well, yeah.
People
might say that about our party. Especially when I've got all my yellow gear on and I'm in full campaigning mode.
Yeah, that's what I saw when I come to the door, just a big yellow banana. That was the first thing I saw.
Aye. Oh.
That's Jane.
Aye, well, it has been known for me. I had all my stuff on the other day, and I think someone called me a ray of sunshine, which is really nice. I mean, that's a change from people shouting out banana or something like that.
I don't own any yellow clothes.
Oh, I got mine at the charity shops.
I just I really
dyed
feel
them
like
and
I
things
should
like that.
buy some yellow clothes since I'm standing as a Lib Dem.
It's very easy. You just go and get something the light colour, and then go and get the washing machine dye and do it in the washing machine. It comes out beautiful colour. I've got my jute bag that you get. Yeah. Mine is now beautiful yellow because I just chucked it in there.
This is yellow.
That's the sort of yellow. That is, it is indeed.
Yes. As a Lib Dem candidate?
Well, I'm basically a Lib Dem at this point, isn't I?
So the next one.
I could stand in Holyrood and just be like,
Yeah.
Got yellow on my
Who picked
t-shirt.
me?
Come on, guys.
I must tell you that there were some of my fellow party members who used to give me a telling off for wearing yellow, saying I was making a fool of myself.
Really?
Yes.
That's ridiculous.
Well, there we go. But please don't report that as Liberal Democrats split. But I don't think they quite understood that when I put the colours on, it's a bit like, I suppose it's like someone going to the football match in a way.
It's
It's
your sort of thing.
So yeah, it's showing support, and it's also putting the costume on as if you're going on stage, because you're becoming a very public person at that point. And it helps if you have the costume on and you think, now I step into the role. What
I
do you
notice in Westminster, in the House of Commons, they tend to just use coloured ties. They tend, like the Tories.
That must be awful cold. Is that
Lanyards
that's
as
all they're
well.
wearing?
SNP have got loads of like lanyards and stuff like that they wear as
The
well.
SNP.
Oh yeah.
Lanyards. What's a lanyard?
A lanyard's like a
We thing for your keys and like your
like this, like this. Like a
That's a
lanyard.
lanyard.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I knew that. I was just.
Listeners, this is the rope,
Really?
the sort of bit of cord that hangs around the neck, and you hang things from it. In my case, it's a GPS, but that is what a lanyard is. They used to wear them in the guides a long time ago.
Right.
But I don't think you were in the guides, either of you chaps.
No, definitely kept
What
it.
makes you think that?
I just have this
The
feeling.
boobs, Craig's the
It's
boobs.
the boobs.
Was it?
I
Right.
know this is live and I'm really sorry, but can I go for a wee really quickly?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fine. We'll talk to Jane. That's fine.
Thanks. Where am I going? Sorry.
It's
just
straight up the
straight up
stairs. Just straight up.
Thank you.
Right, we'll cut that.
I'll
out.
hold back.
Sorry.
I'll hold back my question that I'm excited to talk about. Actually, I've not told you about this ever.
Ooh.
I'm not going to
Oh,
tell
well,
you.
there you go. What is it? No.
I'm not going to tell you, but I'm excited to talk about
We'll
it.
just wait
because,
till Lord comes back. Or?
the Lib. Aye, but I'm going to tease.
Right, go for it. Go for it.
The Lib Dems are. I've spoken to Solidarity. I've spoken to the SSP. I've spoken to the Greens. I've spoken to SNP. I've spoken to Labour. I've spoken to the Conservatives. None of them have given me a solid answer on this.
Have you
Or
spoken to Rise yet?
Yeah, that's it. The SSP. Are
Oh, I
standing
see.
on
I see. Right, I get confused.
We were speaking to Jenny Gunn.
Oh, is it the? Oh, I
Did
thought
she-
we were going to talk
I was
about.
going to say, did she go off? But I better
Well,
not.
we've no spoken to her on the podcast yet.
Ah.
I have checked manifestos and things.
Do you think we can maybe
But-
get her in the next 2 weeks before the election? Or is
So
it
we're
a week
going to see
away?
her tomorrow. We'll ask her
Oh,
tomorrow.
totally. Aye. Jesus. Aye. I thought about that.
So I'm excited to talk about this because
Mhm.
you said you know what it is now,
I think. Aye. I think
Aye.
I do.
and the Lib Dems.
Because nobody really has a proper answer yet.
Nah.
Aye.
So,
I can't.
Does that mean you'll get an improper answer?
Well, the Lib
I think
Dems
so.
are actually for it. So I'm
Right.
really
Aye.
excited
You
to talk
did
about
mention this morning. So
Did I? Right.
there you go.
So
Here is the question.
the Lib Dems are for GMOs,
What?
genetic modification.
Yes.
Oh, yes. I rather
Thank
don't
God.
think we are now. Yes.
That has been so much of a painful experience to hear people who are anti-GMO, and now most politicians are anti-GMO, and especially in Scotland. And it's been a headache because I like science and I like learning about science, and then hearing politicians saying anti-scientific things makes me want to die. And I'm so happy to hear about a political party that is openly for GMOs.
Oh, I think Ross Finney, if you remember him, he was the Rural Affairs Minister in the first 2 terms of the Scottish Parliament, and he would have liked to have authorised them earlier on. I think the party was had concerns about it at the time, but I know Ross thought it was a sensible idea. So I think that there has been checking the evidence and seeing that if provided there are ways to make sure that you haven't got the modified organisms escaping, as it were, and causing trouble, then that's fair enough, one would think.
It's exciting to me. I just like it.
I would really like to see like some genetically modified like insects and stuff, like just some really cool stuff. Like, I reckon we've got the science to do some awesome things, and I really want to see it. But
Well, I was watching. Yes, I was watching that. The Joe Rogan podcast. They had Michael Shermer on. I don't know if you know him. He runs a magazine in America called Skeptic. It's about
Probably spelt with a K. It's American.
Yeah, it's against pseudoscience, and it talks
yes.
about religion versus science and things like that.
Oh.
So he was talking about trying to lower the meat consumption without forcing everybody to go vegan.
Yeah.
Like we've got He said, talking about it as if coming at it for loads of different angles. You get people to go like meat free on a Monday, and then you get genetically modified meat, so you can make meat in a lab. Then you come at it from a bunch of other places, and slowly you get to a point where there's no real suffering, there's no factory farming, there's no things like that.
Yes.
I'm quite interested in genetically modified cows at some point. That would be quite... Because then you could make them taste different. You can make them...
Like smoky. And we smoke.
Barbecue.
Aye.
Barbecue flavour coming through.
Because Joe Rogan was arguing that cows taste different if they eat grass or if they eat corn.
Oh, they've got those Japanese cows, don't they, that get
is
fed
it
beer
Wagyu?
and have Wagyu, whatever it is, and they get. I don't know.
Japanese. I thought it would have been
been.
sake if it was Japanese.
I don't know. I'm not.
Beer.
I wonder
I've
if it's
never had
delicious.
it, but
neither
apparently
have I.
it's really nice.
And the more you kind of feed an animal up, like different kind of
But
kinds
then
of
the
stuff,
taste
it
would
makes
still
it.
be whatever chemicals are inside the cow. You could still make
yeah.
it.
That's
Like
it.
that, so you
Yes.
could still...
I was just thinking, you feed the cow horseradish, and there you've got your roast beef and horseradish sauce already.
There you go. Feed it mint, feed a pig mint or something like that. I don't know.
No, that'd be a lamb.
Lamb.
Oh, lamb, there you go.
Yes.
Idiot!
Aye.
You're ready to be a professional chef.
I'm leaving.
So I'm happy about the GMOs. Next bit, that's something I'm slightly unhappy with,
Oh.
is
I love how he says that like quite severely. There you
you're
go.
getting a telling off.
Oh.
So, independent referendum. Obviously, the Lib Dems were for the no vote.
Yes.
Although Willie has said that he supports some members or candidates.
Well, what he said is he would allow them to, which is actually, well, we are a liberal party. I mean, we're not going to be giving them court martials or making them stand up in front of everyone and ripping off their buttons and everything. I mean, that's just silly.
Yeah.
But I don't think you will find, as I think you're implying, I don't think there were too many Liberal Democrats going round the doors last year saying, please vote yes.
No.
There are individuals in our party who do feel that they support independence. That's fine. But in general, the party is saying, we've had an independence referendum, let's get on with some other things. The result was fairly clear.
See, this is the problem, right?
Right.
In the UK and in Scotland in general,
Aye.
the Liberal Democrats have lost a lot of support. Mostly in the UK. I think Scotland have still got relatively good support. I don't think you've lost too much.
We're actually starting to win by-elections again, especially down the south.
Yeah.
So we're on the way back.
But since the Lib Dems lost so much in the UK, would you then say, well, it's a democratic decision, we could stop campaigning in those places? Or would you say, we still believe it's the right thing to do, so we're going to continue campaigning?
We think, what's the right thing to do? Just anything?
Well, our policies are the right policies,
Yes,
so we should still campaign in these places.
Yes.
Whereas independence voters think independence is still the right thing to do.
Yes.
Even though we're lost, we're still going to try and convince people.
Oh yes,
So-
I noticed that.
If the Lib Dems are still able to go and campaign,
Yes.
would it not be, according to the logic that you're maintaining for the independence referendum, would you not be better just stopping campaigning in areas where you've lost MPs?
I mean, we
I
wouldn't
don't
be
quite understand
campaigning
this.
if we didn't have party members there to do the campaigning. So there's obviously still people there that do believe in what we believe. So, I mean, I know that there are probably a lot of people in the party that try to give the hard sell on the doorstep. But for me, if someone answers the door and says, look, I'm signed, paid up member of the SNP, I'm voting
You
SNP.
just cross them off the list and think,
then,
we're not going there
that's
again.
that. I'm not going to change their mind.
No.
Like, they've obviously thought about their decision and decided that's who they're voting for. It's just about being there for the people that do want to vote for us and making
That's
sure
right.
that people know that that's an option.
And I agree with that, which is why I think forgetting the independence referendum would be a terrible idea, because there's still almost half of the country, at least, supports independence.
I mean, for me, it's not so much forgetting that the independence
No, it's
referendum
moving on.
happened. It's more just this election isn't about whether we're going to be independent or not. This election is about who's going to run Scotland for the next 5 years, and whether you think that we should be independent or not, you need to be choosing who's going to have the best health policies, who's going to have the best education policies, who's going to make sure that the bus runs up the road for old Margaret to get to the library. It's that sort of stuff, because that's what's going to matter over the next 5 years. At the end of the day, even if we do become independent, which I hope we don't personally, but
Yes.
if we do, we still need someone to run the country, and if we over the next 5 years let it go to ruin, then we're not going going to have a country that's worth being independent over.
That was a good answer.
I think we have to
Thank you.
we have to offer people the option. They can say, no, we don't like your policies, and that's fine. But they've been offered the liberal values. And I think some of the other parties do seem to have gone to the other extremes. And the liberal message is, we seem to be the only people that are preaching it. And so it would be a bit of a gap if we disappeared completely. So, we can't force people, as Lauren has said, we can't force people to vote for us, but we give them the message and they choose whether or not to pay attention to it. I thought it was interesting what was said about about half the country. Yeah, that's the difficulty, because the country is split. Families are divided. I know members of my own family who took a different view from mine, and there's a strange relationship now that wasn't there before. Willie said he knows a mother and a daughter who haven't spoken to each other for 2 years because of the referendum. Now, I know that technically 50% plus one either way would have been enough, but can you think of what would have happened if Scotland had voted for independence by that narrow a margin? You would have had half the country that were faced with an irrevocable decision, because you can't go back. You can't sort of try the independence, see how you like it, and if you don't like it, go back to joining up again. Not without an awful lot of negotiations and whatever. So you would have immediately had nearly half the country extremely unhappy, seeing no way back, and that can't have been healthy. I'm not saying there should have been a threshold, but it's why I think the First Minister is quite right to say that she's wanting it to be much more obvious that they were going to win before they try that again. If you think about Norway, and Norway got spoken an awful lot about, when they voted on independence, it was at least 95%, it might even have been 99%, who voted for independence. So the people who had voted against it were a minority, very much a minority. What they did, I don't know. And so that, I think, can be coped with. But if you had half the country that were deeply unhappy, I think we still have half the country that are not terribly happy, but they still got all their flags up. I think that's interesting, because I remember I think it was either just before the result was announced or just before, and I think it was Gordon Brown who said, we mustn't gloat. We must if we win, we take down our banners, that's it, because the other people will be feeling very unhappy about it, and we have to build bridges, etc. And we did that. We took down our no thanks posters and everything, and went out of our way not to gloat or anything. And what did we find? Just about every poster is still up.
There was also a riot.
Oh, there was.
Caused by no voters.
Are you sure? I think
It
was caused by people who claimed to be unionists. I suspect none of them ever had voted at all. I think that would have happened whatever the result was. These people that were associated with a certain football team. Yes, exactly. Right, fine. And I think they were just spoiling for a fight.
Yeah.
However, but you know what I mean. There's still all these yes things all over the place, and. And it's the other thing too, if you just try and point out that some of the predictions or the things that were said in the white paper perhaps didn't stack up, and the evidence is coming home to roost, as it were, oil prices is the obvious one, that this wouldn't have worked, and you're immediately accused of gloating. So we're supposed to have say nothing at all, even though we're doing our best not to say, look, I told you so. So it's a wee bit awkward, shall we say that? But I had to laugh. I saw. In St Andrews, there was what looked like a yes sticker up on a gable end. You know, the blue circle and that particular font. Except I looked a wee bit more closely. It didn't say yes, it said no. And I thought, so I smirked quietly.
I
took
had
a picture
quite a
of it.
sad situation when we were campaigning. I'd gone, Dundee University were doing a series of lectures called 5 Million Questions to 5 million people in Scotland, and they were asking all these politicians and activists from both sides, apparently 5 million questions. I went to a lot of them. There's no way they got to 5 million, but
No.
It was really good. There was some really high profile people there. We had a really good time, and one night my husband and I were like, oh, we've got a cheap deal at the Malmaison, we'll go. There was always a free wine reception afterwards, so it was quite a good evening. Got a little bit tipsy, and we stayed overnight, and then we got up the next morning, and our car, we put a UK OK car sticker on the back windscreen. And I came back and my car was covered in yes stickers, but just normal ones that they'd stuck onto the windscreen, and I couldn't get them off for weeks. And I was like, that's really horrible. Like, if you don't agree with it, that's fine, but don't vandalise my car. I was really upset.
I mean, I will tell you that I confidently expect I will probably put out a Liberal Democrat garden poster, as we call them, during the election. I would be very surprised if it isn't stolen. That's happened the past few elections, and I think we know who's doing it.
Well, like the same people or like an organisation?
There could be an overlap there, but I think we suspect what the affiliation is of the people that go around, and it's not just mine, because other people's. It seems like a raiding party comes over and just goes off with them, chucks them in the burn, or disposes of them. And this is coming into people's gardens. It's not just even reaching over the fence. It's coming in and taking them away, and that's not really on, is it?
I totally disagree.
Yeah.
There were a lot of things during the referendum that I felt like that's not what I stand for at all.
Well, that happened. That was happening too. People were finding, farmers were finding, if they put out a no poster, it was getting defaced. I had my own. I put my teddy bears in the window, and they were holding no flags, and I decided that was my little demonstration. And it was reasonably safe because it was inside the house. It would never have done if the teddy bears had been harmed.
My friend offered to put a poster of me in her window because she lives on quite a main street, and see how many eggs got thrown at it. So she's obviously quite confident in my chances of success this year.
Well, that's the kind of friends I would have as well.
Definitely, that's what I do.
I said, will you put a poster up? She went, yeah, I'll do a wee survey and see how many times it gets vandalised. I was like, oh, cheers.
Well, if it was eggs, it would at least be the right colour. And I believe the way I believe the way to get raw egg off anything is put lots and lots of salt on it, and I believe it dries and you can then brush it off.
So that in case you need it.
Indeed. Handy hints from.
You got experience with getting rid of egg?
No, I don't think so. I read it in probably something like a People's Friend years and years ago. It's just one of these things that I remember.
I love the People's Friend. My mum reads it every week, and I always get it afterwards. I love it.
I have no idea what that is.
It's an old
DC Thompson.
It's an old ladies' magazine. And
you're saying that like I should know that.
Well,
it's published
Scottish
in Dundee, and it's got like a nice watercolour of a place, a little village in Scotland on the front page, and then it's all stories.
It's all couthy.
A historic story, and then a modern day story, and then you've got your cereals. You've got 2 cereals,
cornflakes and Cocoa Krispies
every week. So that's one for every day of the week. You've got a few wee word searches, a crossword. You've got your wee catalogue for buying your slippers and your bath mats, and you know.
Do you have Francis Gay, or is that the Sunday Post? I get a bit
Francis Gay's the Sunday Post.
Oh right.
Do you work for the People's Friend?
No, I just really like it.
People's Fiend.
And I feel like you
sponsored.
have to be probably at least double my age before you can really appreciate it. But I feel like
double my
I have
age as well.
grown into the People's Friend so well.
Oh dear. I remember I sometimes used to see it at my grandma's house, and I remember trying looking through some of the stories and thinking, oh dear. I mean, it was all if anyone was wearing modern type clothes like a miniskirt or something, you knew that something terrible was going to happen to them. It was the ones that looked terribly old fashioned and things that were the right sort of people.
Oh, it's so predictable.
And
it's brilliant.
I think, but they're very clever, DC Thompson, and they do it to some of their other publications too. I think they realise that people like nostalgia, and that's what they give them. And people hark back because they all think everything was much better in the good old days. All they mean is that they actually survived them, so it can't have been that bad. And they remember things as they think they were as well. Yeah. You're not remembering things exactly
we've had these arguments before.
Yes,
totally.
So I think the People's Friend, that's why the sort of watercolour on the front just sort of goes in with that soft
which you can
focus
order,
picture.
by the way, by sending an
Stamp-addressed
addressed envelope off to DC
I'm
Thompson
pretty sure
with
you
a
do
check
want-
in it.
There's something there. There's that
it's
sponsorship deal.
it's because you have to send a check, and the only reason I got a check because when we got married, there was people that would only accept check, and I was like, guys, look.
It's 2016.
Well, it was 2014 at the time, but still, who's ever used a checkbook in 2014? I've never had a checkbook, and I had to get one. I had to go into the bank and say, "Can I have a checkbook, please?" They were like, "What do you want a checkbook for? I can give you one check to fill out." I was like, "No, I need a checkbook. I'm getting married." They were like, "Oh, you're getting married? we'll get a checkbook for you, don't worry, we're used to this. And apparently the entire wedding industry is still stuck back in the 50s, writing out checks to each other.
Is it?
I don't know when. Why does no one have a card machine?
This is
Why
where-
does no one have a card machine?
That's why I don't want to get married.
Just don't
Specifically
bother.
because of
It
checks.
was
Specifically because
so
of the checkbooks.
stressful, and the checkbook thing just was one more thing that sent me over the edge into like a meltdown that day. I was like, I can't do this.
Right, so we're going to need to get the people's what's it called?
People's friend.
The people's friend.
People's friend will get
And
that.
if you look at letters with friends at the end, that's where all the people write in with pictures of their granddaughters and grandsons, and like, oh, this was me when I went to Australia on holiday, and it's a 90-year-old woman with her people's friend in front of like the Sydney Opera House. Like,
Oh, they do that.
I've got a funny feeling when we're trying to email for a guest from the people's friend, we're just going to get Lauren at the end of the phone.
what's up, guys?
Like, hello, it's me.
I actually wrote a story. I think it was for my. I think I sent it to. I can't remember if I sent it to the People's Friend or to My Weekly, but they didn't like it. Both DC Thompson things, but they didn't like it. They said the heroine, her troubles were of her own making, and obviously wasn't the sort of nice message that they wanted to put out. It was a story roughly about someone who wanted a perfect Christmas and was doing every little detail, and everything went like clockwork, and it was all wonderful. And then she gets thrown because her husband's going to bring 2 extra guests to Christmas dinner, and suddenly she doesn't think she can do it anymore, and she runs away to a Scottish island in a wee cabin, and she's much happier there, spending Christmas Day on her own, just drinking cheap red wine out of a wee paper cup and with a sausage roll or something like
I think
that.
we've all been there on Christmas Day, haven't we?
Exactly. But that wasn't the sort of thing that the People's Friend / My Weekly or whatever it was wanted for
Well,
their.
I don't want to be
So there we go.
boastful, but I have been published in Twinkle.
Oh,
In
Twinkle.
1996. It's a little girls' magazine.
Right.
And I won a little doll for my letter that I sent in, and I called it Twinkle, and I still have it at my mum's house on my
Twinkle.
You should have brought it up
Twinkle.
to me.
So you're a published writer.
Published. Well, my letter was published.
You're-
I wouldn't.
oh,
It wasn't
Letter.
great.
I've had stuff in what was it? I had something in the Scots magazine, and in most recently in Scottish Islands Explorer, I've written 1 or 2 wee pieces in that.
And Jane Ann's a quiz champion
Quiz
of
queen.
everything.
Well, I don't know. I mean, at the moment I'm hassling my fellow Lib Dems for my latest quiz. I've been doing a series of them, and the format is 50 questions, and the answers all begin with the same letter of the alphabet. We're going through the alphabet for the second time. I thought when I'd got to Z, that's it, but no, they wanted me to go through it again. And you can't Google the answers very easily because a lot of them are cryptic or they're puns. And because I didn't think it was fair if someone could just sit down at a computer and get all the answers
That
like
sounds
that.
like I would be rubbish in that.
But you might
I don't
also
know.
be awesome as
I
well.
bet
You've
you
got-
Mum, I've got useless nonsense info in your head, and I've got important stuff.
Of
So-
course. You have to have to do my quizzes, you have to have a devious mind. There's a wee crossword.
In what way?
Well, there's a crossword
Not the way that
called.
you're thinking.
There's a
Right, so
crossword.
I could get rid of some dead bodies and some sausage rolls. That's quite devious.
I was about a kind of.
And I think Sweeney Todd did that before
Alright.
already. But it's what I mean is it's the way I'm thinking. There's a little crossword puzzle in the Glasgow Herald called the Wee Stinker. I don't know if you've heard of it, but I've noticed that I seem to be doing the sort of clues a wee bit like that. So there tend to be anagrams all over the place, and as I said, puns and the like. But that's just that's just one of the wee things I do.
You wanna get the quizzes?
Terrible.
Yeah,
Really bad. I mean, I go to pub quizzes hoping to win the last place prize. Like, that's my goal for the night. If I can
It's a good idea.
have the concentration to get through to the end, then that's a win for me, really.
I'm unfortunate because I have this pile of absolutely useless knowledge when it comes to doing podcasts and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know where you get it.
I don't know. Well, that's the annoying thing because I know tons of stuff that you would never even think to even try to understand.
No.
But when it comes to doing like politic podcasts and stuff, I kind of struggle a wee bit. With you in the sort of
Well,
forefront.
it's easy to read about politics. How do you read about useless information?
It's just absolutely
Well,
useless stuff.
Could you
just comes
Google
into
useless
you.
info? I bet there's a website.
There probably is.
Well, when I was a child, I got the Look and Learn magazine. And that, a lot of that general knowledge stuff has stuck with me since then. Sort of thing. Again, you can Google that and you can find out what it was like. It was an educational magazine for children. There was an even more junior one called The Treasure, which started on that and then went on to the Look and Learn. And it had all these things about science, about biographies, about history, and lovely illustrations. So it made it really interesting. And that's where I got an awful lot of my
I read
useless
Twinkle.
information.
That's why I'm not any good at
You
quizzes.
read what?
I read Twinkle. That's why
Twinkle.
I'm not any good at quizzes.
named after a singer who just recently died, and her main hit was Terry, and I know the secretary of the Twinkle fan club, who lives in Crail, by the way. But
Ironically, useless
Connections.
information.
it is.
I didn't
That's
even know I
amazing.
had a fan
Connections,
club.
that's beautiful.
It did.
Uh-huh.
Well, the singer
I love
did.
that
Yes.
you just finished talking about useless information, and then
just-
you. That's amazing. See, that's all talent that I've not got. I need to read about stuff and then not understand it for 12 weeks, and then,
Then just
finally
click.
just feel it click, and then I
Do
know
you
something.
ever wake up in the middle of the night and just suddenly go, oh God, that's it, all just slotted into place now?
We-
I do that so often. I'll be fretting about stuff and then I'll suddenly wake up in the middle of the night and hit my husband and be like, oh my God, I know, I understand now. And he'll be like, just shut up and just...
I-
We
actually
were
done that.
talking about that. Maybe we were talking about the click.
The click.
Eventually you'll be sitting learning about someone, and then something will happen. You'll be like,
Yeah.
I'm yet to have that
Eureka!
elementary,
Yes.
but
I
click
had a
moment,
situation when I was studying to be an accountant, and I'd done 2 years at this point, and I was volunteering at Furniture Plus in Kirkcaldy, which is a really good charity, and the woman said something to me, and she's, oh yeah, so debits and credits, it's just like a debit card and a credit card, so on one you owe money and on the other one you have the money and then spend it. And I was like, are you joking me? And I knew how to do them, but every time I had to sit down and really, really think about it. And then she just said that one thing, and I can't believe for 2 years I've been sitting struggling with this, and you've just said one thing, and it's just made everything a million times
that's it.
easier.
I've done that a few times a year. You'll say something, and I'll be like, that makes sense. Or
You've
even
done
like
it
as
there,
you're just talking about something, you'll be like, totally. That's
we
what
done it
I
the
mean.
other night. We were talking about Congress.
Aye.
You were like,
aye.
it's just a congressional meeting.
Aye,
That's what it
there's
is.
nothing to do with it. And
There's
then I was
no-
like, totally just understood that as I was saying it. Unbelievable.
I had a eureka moment when I was cycling, probably over to Cooper actually, and this goes back to when I was at school, because I think what had happened was I do these crossword puzzles every week and send them in. I keep winning dictionaries, and it was one of them. I think sometimes they print the wrong grid, and that's quite fun because I can usually work out the grid and then put the answers in. So I'd been trying to work out how many letters it should have, how many squares it should have, and whether it was 14 or whether it was 15. And then I was just cycling along and thought, yes, well that meant if you had to increase it by 1, if it was from 14 to 15, then you needed 14 down the side and another 14 along the bottom and 1. And then suddenly it was x plus 1 all squared equals x squared plus 2x plus 1. And I thought, that's what it meant when I was doing my higher maths all the years ago. But it took being able to visualise it, because I was trying to do a crossword grid.
I could feel the heat coming through your head that
I
was
went
just blown
blank.
up.
Why did I mention the M word?
Sorry,
You've destroyed Craig.
Oh. This is why I talk about politics. So much easier.
Right. And cycling and doing maths on a bike.
So maths was easily my worst subject in the world. I failed general standard grade maths, and then went to college to do computing, and failed again.
Oh, too bad.
It's trigonometry. Trigonometry makes no sense.
So
whatsoever.
Katoa.
That it doesn't help.
Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent.
You're making it more complicated.
That's how you remember
I felt like
it.
you've just said a nonsense sentence there that doesn't make any sense.
There was zero
I
words.
don't. Well, that's possible. I hope if my former maths teacher's listening, I'm sure she would have corrected me if I got it wrong.
We've got an economist lecturer coming in on Thursday for a debate on socialism versus capitalism. So I might get him to teach me trigonometry.
Just say SOCATOA. That'll do.
Just say SOCATOA and he'll go, aye.
Where's that?
They'd be like, nah, so good to
Or he might have a different system and go, nah, it's pish. Do this one.
He might indeed. I mean, that was some time ago. Maybe they've come up with a new word. Like when I started off at St Andrews, people doing double maths, which I wasn't, I hasten to add, but it was called spam, because it was stats, pure, applied, and methods. And then a year or so later, it became scamp, because computer science got in. So goodness knows what they call it now, if they still do that. But
you done computer, didn't you?
I was a
You
computer.
said on the Lib Dem's website you had a background in IT.
That's right, Royal Bank of Scotland, in fact.
Right.
I first did some computing at St Andrews, and that was on an IBM 360 mainframe, operating systems 44 MFT and racks, and it was punched card input.
Oh, this is way before my time.
Obviously. And then I started work at the Royal Bank of Scotland doing their computers. And I believe at about the same time, because I graduated just a few minutes after him, there was a young man called Alex Salmond who was in the economics part of the bank. But so I never ran into him there. But so I was programming the Royal Bank of Scotland's computer. And this was all the days of big mainframes and everything.
You're talking about the same Alex Salmon, like...
Yeah, Eck, that's right.
Oh, nice.
I vaguely remember him on the SRC at St Andrews. He was quite good then, and used to answer questions yes or no. And he was I think he was vice president of something or other, if I recall correctly. But he seemed quite convincing and quite genuine.
Nice.
But people grow up.
See, politicians need to dig.
There you go.
Well, I didn't want us to be having too much of a love-in or something, as one might have called it.
So I've only got really one more thing, and it's drug reform. You're quite happy with drugs?
I've made up a slogan for this, which I think is quite appropriate. Potheads, not potholes. Vote Lib Dem.
Like that.
I'm voting Lib Dem now. I don't even smoke weed. I don't smoke.
No, I've never smoked anything in my life.
Are you a pothead?
Well, my dad is half Dutch, so I've been to Amsterdam quite a few times.
So, yes.
My dad is Dutch. I am half Dutch. Sorry, I forgot my nationality. But not in this country.
Because it's illegal.
Yeah, and also because it's a hassle. I don't want to have to meet like a drug dealer down a shady alley.
That's one of the biggest things. It's always a
that.
hassle to.
Is that I could easily get weed and have it delivered to my door at 11 o'clock at night, and yet I can't buy painkillers from the chemist after 6.
I didn't know that.
So that's fun.
Yes.
So maybe drug reform is a bad thing.
Well, I think the only drugs I tend to have anything to do with are coffee and chocolate and alcohol, which I think are all legal. You should see what coffee does to a spider when it's trying to make a web, by the way. That was... I think they were comparing it with heroin and alcohol.
LSD as well.
Well, I didn't... Oh, the old money, I remember that. I can convert back into it. But should never have changed it. But...
I love it.
But yes, it was amazing what the effect that it had on a ettercap trying to spin a web if it had caffeine before. Dear me.
Yeah, caffeine's it's got bad points to it, but it's also delicious.
That's true.
Indeed.
So I think the overall policy is not to legalise all drugs, but to sort of have more less incarceration and more rehab.
Basically it's to treat it as a health issue instead of a criminal matter.
That's right.
I mean, if people are struggling with addiction, the last thing they need is to be locked up with other addicted people, or worse, like people that have committed really horrible crimes, instead of just meeting someone down a back alley to get a bit of weed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just about treating it as a health issue. making sure that people are in like a safe place. Like, I mean, I know that like in Fife we've already got like the needle schemes and stuff, but we could go a long way to make sure that people are a little bit more safe, and hopefully taking the stigma away takes away the sort of addiction side of it. I mean, if you're able to say like, oh, like same with booze, like you see everyone going a bit crazy once they turn 18 and they're able to go out, they're out every night because they can, like just. But then obviously, like, once you're a bit older, like, you can just go out for a drink and just have one, and that's fine. And it could be the same sort of thing.
And you could go out for just one.
I'm told that, yeah.
Some people can do that. I don't understand it myself.
Never met a single person.
It's just about, like, not making it, like, a big deal, not having to hide it, just being able to...
Yeah, because we were at a pub playing pool and thought, kidding, I've got a pint of beer here, I'd much rather have a tin of Iron Brew. It tastes much better, and it's not a whole pint, so you don't need to drink it all. And it's cheaper.
Absolutely.
So, aye.
And you just got all that sugar in it, which is doing other things to you, but that's another matter.
Like in Amsterdam, you never see people like with a problem there, do you? Like with drugs or that, really. I've never seen major problems.
It's the ones that come from Scotland and England. They're usually the ones that are kind of overpowered.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. It's the people that are the drug tourists.
Yeah.
Whereas like the Dutch people there just seem dead chilled out. They're like, oh well, we can do that or we can not do that. It's not a problem, and it's a bit easier. So hopefully we could adopt something that's just a little bit more health based as opposed to sort of.
That's right. I think the idea is that if you've got small amounts that are obviously for your own personal use, then that's I think that is that the bit that's to be decriminalised. It's something along these lines. If you've got stuff for supply, then that's then they throw the book at you. But if it's small quantities for personal use, then it would be treated as a health.
Especially because a drugs charge can really ruin your life. And if you're young and you just made like one, you just. It could be your first time and you get caught. It's more likely to be on your first time that you get caught because you've not learned to be sneaky. And that can that could, if they were making an example of you and choosing to like go the full course of the law with you, that could ruin your life. If you've got a proper drugs charge, you're not going to get a job easily after that, are you?
The thing I find hilariously hypocritical in politics is a lot of politicians have dabbled in illegal drugs that they would quite happily see other people go to jail for. Like there was a Canadian guy. I don't know their system. I don't know if he was a senator or if he was an MP or whatever it is. But he was taking, I think it was meth or something like that, and he was quite happy to accept it. I reckon who it was.
Crystal meth rather than meths, I hope.
Well, anyway, whatever it was. He was quite happy to just go about his day and take meth and then charge other people for.
Yeah, but you must have come across that sort of thing. Parents, especially, will have done things when they were younger, and they say, "Don't do as I did, do as I say." There's a line in. I was like that when a lad, a proper young scamp and a rover. I behaved like a regular cad, and that sort of thing is now over. And I'm now a respectable chap. I shine with a virtue resplendent, and therefore I haven't a scrap of sympathy with the defendant. W.S. Gilbert's Trial by Jury. But it's that sort of thing. So you can't be too hard on people just for saying that they, yes, I did that when I was younger. I accept that I shouldn't have, and that's why we're going to, because there were consequences, and that's why I'm going to try and protect other people from that. What is wrong is if someone is still doing it and then condemning someone else for taking these substances.
I like the fact the difference between legalisation and decriminalisation as well is that you're not trying to create a market for heroin. You're just trying to not have people ruin their life even more after taking heroin than they're no put beside violent criminals, and then they're not coming out angry and being even more violent because they've not had heroin.
Yeah, I mean, I just think you can only learn bad things in jail. I don't believe that it's a great place to rehabilitate people for society. I really don't believe that it does a good job in doing that.
Jimmy Boyle? What about Jimmy Boyle though? I mean, he seemed to have been turned around, and he's in the special units and became an artist.
People can turn around. I'm not saying that. I just mean putting people in jail for having a bit of weed on them.
Yes.
isn't.
Jimmy Boyle had
make
murdered
them-
someone,
It's
admittedly.
not going to make. Do you know what I mean? It's not going to make people come out better people. I don't think. I think that's something where you need to like maybe have a look at the health issues and like why are people turning into that in the first place? What's going on at home for them? Things like that. Like surely we can make their life better for them without locking them away for a year. Taking people out of society for a year doesn't teach them to be better in society.
No,
I
that's
think
fine.
prison should. This is my thing, that prison should be meant to protect other people. If somebody's a serial killer, put them in prison where they can't murder a bunch of people. If someone's a paedophile, put them in prison so that they can't get to kids. But people who are non-violent, non-victim crimes, seems a bit like a waste of time to put them in prison.
Yeah, I struggle to sort of make the two sort of line up in my head. It's difficult because I think people do need to be punished, and I'm not sure how you could do that without taking away the privilege of living in a free society. But it's I don't think it necessarily helps them either, and obviously the ultimate goal would be to rehabilitate, so it's really difficult. I don't know.
Yes. This is why you have some of these community payback schemes, which are good. And one of the this is a different topic here, but this is what's so pernicious about some of the workfare type schemes, because the sort of things that were being suggested for people who are long-term unemployed was to continue getting their benefit. It was being suggested that they should do unpaid work, unpaid community work, which sounds just like unpaid community schemes, which are your punishment. And it was even suggested that picking up litter in the park would be one thing to do. And that's the sort of thing is handed out as a sentence to an offender. And you're treating someone who's unemployed like that, then you're saying we are punishing you. And that's all wrong. That's all wrong.
So,
I think that's. Have you got any questions?
I'm cool. Are you got any questions for each other or anything?
Or
like
us?
that? Is what you want to talk about, or us, or
Anything more to us about
anything
being
you
wrong?
anything you need to say at the end? Anybody you need to talk about, or
Well, I think.
finishing off?
Well, I hope that the people that have been listening to this, well, they're not going to write us off completely. They might have found out we're actually human. And this will never do. That's our reputation as politicians sunk
You're not
completely.
lizards.
No,
Not
not
a lizard people.
You've been asked this many times
Yeah.
about being lizards and
Have
like
I?
that. You've been
No,
asked
this
this.
is the first
Yeah,
for me.
not even a lizard on a lounge. A
Have
lounge
you been
lizard.
in contact with the Illuminati yet? Have they?
No, I don't think they. I don't think they're interested in me
No.
personally. They've not approached
You're not powerful
me.
enough for the Illuminati.
Not yet. I mean, hopefully, when I am the Prime Minister one day, they will approach me. But until then, I've not
Maybe.
heard from them.
That's it.
Yes. I should have been Prime Minister, you know. I think that would be really good.
Well, I think that's it.
Thank
Well,
you.
So cheers for coming in.
Right,
Thanks
thank
for
you very
having
much.
Thanks very much for coming, Mike.
I see the crystal raindrops fall, and the beauty of it all is when the sun comes shining through. To hear those rainbows in my mind, when I think of you sometime, I want to spend some time with you. Just the two of us, we can make it if we try. Just the two of us. Just the two of us, building castles in the And the beauty of it all is when the sun comes shining through.